Martin crossed the line in 2014 and gave up his dual Portuguese and Albanian citizenship at the beginning, voluntarily applying to become the first naturalized player in Dragon Country. I originally wanted to contribute my humble efforts to the development of our country's football industry. Unexpectedly, on the first day of the National Youth Report, it was met with continuous malicious attacks from related parties, who retaliated angrily but were directly fired. Good guy. If you don't leave me here, I have my own place to stay. On the day of returning to Porto, activate the full version of the strongest system in the field, and embark on a legendary journey in life. Amazing defensive art, imaginative and wonderful passes, dazzling and gorgeous techniques, stunning and dreamy goals. Fans around the world have received the ultimate visual enhancement due to Martin's presence. European Golden Boy Award, UEFA Player of the Year, FIFA Ballon d'Or, various Golden Boot awards, the personal and team awards that professional players dream of. Get lucky. Cristiano Ronaldo, Portuguese citizen, number 7 jersey plus captain's armband presented with both hands. Messi. As promised by CR7, I'll double it. Guamu scumbag. Boss, give me Martin and give you a flourishing dynasty of greenery. Chinese football fans. The Chinese Football Association will never kneel down and beg for the return of the Polo King. I will never watch the Chinese football again in my life. This book is also known as, even though a full-back has more assists than a midfield core, just transitioning, is it reasonable to have the best scorer, am I a world-class defender, world-class center? Or a world-class striker? P.S. I have completed more than 7 million words of The Strongest Winger and Midfield Ruler, and I guarantee my character keywords of the novel. Football. The Strongest Hexagonal Warrior, no pop-ups, football. The Strongest Hexagonal Warrior Complete Collection Download, football. The Strongest Hexagonal Warrior Latest Chapter Reading. Chapter 1. The first national youth training of Dragon Country's first naturalized player. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. The first national youth training of Dragon Country's first naturalized player. Highly parallel world, please do not bring it into reality. If there is any similarity, it is purely a coincidence. In mid-July 2014. Shanghai Football Training Base. More lively than before. Today is the first day for the first naturalized player in the history of Dragon Country football to participate in the U19 youth training at this training base. Domestic fans have heard that this naturalized player is an outstanding talent in Porto's youth training, and has also represented Portugal U17 in European youth competitions. He is truly the #1 national youth star. Fans have expectations, and the media is like a shark smelling blood, rushing to the Shanghai training base. Within the base, there is a training ground for the Longwa U19 youth team. Young team members with good relationships gathered in small groups for a slow jog, chatting and laughing, preparing for a day of daily training. Brother Ma, you need to be careful when training later. Martin, who was jogging behind his fitness coach, enjoyed his first training with the national youth team very much. His friend Wei Shao suddenly ran over and grabbed his arm, whispering. The two played in the youth training of two different Portuguese Premier League teams in Porto, Portugal, one at Porto U17 and the other at Boa Vista U19. It is very rare to meet fellow countrymen in a foreign land, and Martin, who traveled back to 2014 from 2023, greatly appreciates Wei Shao's ability and frankness. Wei Shao felt that Martin was a straightforward, knowledgeable, and loyal person, making him a friend worth making. I usually have close contact and a good relationship. Wei Shao has participated in several national youth and youth training sessions for Longwa, and is very familiar with many players in the team. As soon as he heard news about Martin, he immediately informed him. Martin frowned slightly and said, "What's the situation? Do you know Li Hua?" Wei Shao pointed to a young man with dyed blonde hair resting in the shade, feeling mischievous, and several young people with tattoos on their arms sitting next to him. If it weren't for wearing a national youth training shirt, it would be easy to be mistaken for a thug. I know, I have watched his video and his level is a bit lacking. Your successful naturalization seriously affects Li Hua's main position in the National Youth League. As far as I know, he is an extremely small-bellied person with connections behind him. He has been forming cliques and bullying since the National Youth League, and has maliciously removed people several times without any trouble. I'm afraid. Martin smiled and said, small problem, you don't know my reaction and strength value. Upon hearing this, Wei Xiaohao shrugged and smiled awkwardly. In terms of age, he is 1.5 years older than Martin. Why is he called Big Brother? The reason is that once Wei Xiaohao drank too much at a bar and accidentally got a big black block, which scared him out of his wits. At the critical moment, Martin took action and dealt with the black block that was being picked up in 2 or 3 moves. From then on, Xiaoma became Ma Gu. After 30 minutes of warm-up stretching, more than 10 newspaper reporters who have good cooperation with the Football Association have registered and arrived at the training ground, set up the equipment, and prepared to shoot for the upcoming group stage. More precisely, their focus is on the first blood-related naturalization. Martin. The coaching staff arranged the lineup as usual, selecting 11 main players and 7 substitutes from each team of up to 63 people for training. The purpose is to select the 23-man squad to compete in the Myanmar U19 Asian Youth Championship. The 27 people who didn't name themselves were also aware, most of whom chose to walk towards the player dormitory, with only a few remaining on the sidelines to watch the game. Journalists take it for granted that they are accustomed to it. Martin also learned from Wei Xiaohao that these players are purely gilding the Chinese youth. Subsequently, head coach Zheng Gang assigned similar game tactics to the starting players of both teams. Martin, dressed in a red training shirt, put on a fluorescent vest issued by the coach and walked shoulder to shoulder with Wei Xiaohao into the court. Li Hua, why are you running to the left? You're playing right back. Zheng Gang suddenly spoke loudly on the sidelines. I can play on both sides. Today, I want to play as a left back, and Amin agreed. By the way, I will try to see if our U19 National Youth #1 star has the same level of passing ability. The sound was so loud that Martin, who was tidying up his socks at the far end of the field, could hear it. Naivety. Martin, who is over 30 years old psychologically, ignored it. Zheng Gang knew that Li Hua couldn't afford to provoke him, so he had no choice but to explain, pay attention to your movements, defend and don't lose your position. Coach, don't worry, you still don't know Hua Ji's ability. That is, how could Sun Hai II of the Dragon Kingdom achieve a false reputation? Fart, it's clearly Ram from the Dragon Kingdom. A few players on and off the field are flattering. Zheng Gang rolled his eyes and thought to himself that if this guy could reach 1/3 of Martin's level, he would burn incense and worship Buddha. Unconsciously confident and persistent, if it weren't for the hard background, I would have been stuck on the bench long ago. Li Hua enjoys the praise of his teammates very much, and his heart feels a bit ethereal. He looked arrogantly at Martin and suddenly felt dissatisfied. Everyone should pay attention, you newcomer is too immature. Not long after, a semi-official match with a chief referee and 2 sidelines began. After several consecutive passes, the football quickly entered Martin's defense. The left winger wearing a red training shirt dunked the ball to the right, making way for the sideline and waiting for Li Hua to come forward and receive it. The rib position is guarded by the back waist, and Martin does not need to adduct. He just needs to keep an eye on Li Hua, who is involved in the attack and inserted from behind. Li Hua received a pass from his teammate and glanced contemptuously at Martin. Without any fancy tricks, the inner side of the right foot directly pushes the football forward several meters. Martin has a solid defensive foundation and has watched all the videos of Chinese youth players when submitting his naturalization application. He is very clear about the technical characteristics of the vast majority of players. His attention was very focused, and he made an instant response by lifting the arch of his right foot to easily block the ball out of the sideline. then quickly return to his position and call on his teammates to defend the out-of-bounds ball. Li Hua's face showed displeasure, feeling underestimated. "I'm very angry, the consequences are very serious." However, his anger did not serve any purpose, on the contrary, it also affected normal choices. The defense, which shifted from attacking to defending, was easily dodged by Martin with a frontal tackle, and he watched helplessly as he and his teammates completed their cooperation. What surprised Martin was that the receiving teammate did not have the intention to move forward, but instead gave an undercover pass back to Li Hua, who had not yet had time to defend. Beautiful. Hua Ji's anti-robbery awareness is really outstanding. The little brother on the sidelines shouted loudly. Supplementary proposal. Fortunately, Martin, who didn't trust his teammates very much, didn't have any brainless pressure. While sighing in his heart, he quickly approached Li Hua, who looked up to observe. Li Hua had just completed the exciting interception and didn't even notice Martin approaching. The flattering little brother half opened his mouth and was momentarily speechless. 2 minutes passed in a blink of an eye, and Li Hua received the ball again, planning to use his teammates' running position to pass the ball through the crotch and humiliate Martin. The plot and story have all been planned, but the protagonist has someone else. The football being launched was intercepted by Martin, who reacted quickly, and he quickly launched a counterattack. But it was only after seeing his teammates' running position that the football was passed, that the teammate who had originally waved for the ball suddenly stopped and watched as the football rolled towards the opponent. "How can I get it with such a large lead time?" The player didn't apologize at all and turned around to complain to Martin, "Big star, give the ball to your feet." "Got it." Martin was too lazy to speak because he had already realized that there was an insider on his side. And not just one. Complaining about passing the ball was obviously for the sake of mentality, so he shouted to left winger Wei Xiaohao, "How, turn from defense to attack and get closer to me." "Okay." Half a minute later, Li Hua, who received the ball, once again humiliated himself. After Martin intercepted the ball, he spotted Wei Xiaohao's running route and sent a straight pass with just the right foot, followed by a high-speed run along the right sideline. Wei Xiaohao's speed is one of the best among the national youth, and he quickly dribbled over the center line. There were only 2 defensive players left in front of him who fought and retreated, hesitating whether to force a breakthrough. "Give it to me." At that moment, he heard a familiar voice. Without hesitation, Wei Xiaohao lifted his left foot and arched the ball towards his attacking right flank on the outside of the opponent's mid-circle arc. Li Hua's participation in the attack is not yet in place. Martin's speed is not particularly fast, but he excels in his abundant physical energy and strong ability to run back and forth. Good basic skills allowed him to complete consecutive stops and trips in one go, and then calmly look up and observe without anyone watching. Indeed, he is a talented player from Porto's youth training. He has such excellent skills in attacking and defending. Coach Xing Gang whispered, even imagining leading the team to the U20 World Cup. Martin dribbled the ball to the outer edge of the right side of the penalty area with a few arrow steps, swung his right foot before the defender was in place, and sent a quick cross to the ground. Wei Xiaohao, who followed up from the middle lane, quickly caught up and completed a right-footed push from the right side of the penalty spot. "Unfortunately, my footwork was not good enough, and the football I kicked rubbed against the outside of the right goalpost and went out of bounds." Wei Xiaohao failed to score the ball and angrily pounded the ground in frustration. Martin still gave him a thumbs up, raising his right index finger close to his thumb, meaning it was almost there. "Brother Ma, the pass is good." Wei Xiaohao also gave his thumbs and patted his chest, indicating that it was his problem that the ball did not go in. "No wonder you can enter the Portuguese national youth team, your ability to attack and defend at both ends is really strong." The journalists holding the filming equipment couldn't help but sigh. On the other hand, Li Hua, who almost lost the ball, did not apologize at all, but instead believed that Martin did not understand human relationships. Don't you know who I am when I come to the National Youth Training Center? Thinking of this, he suddenly became enlightened. I just completed the naturalization procedures yesterday, how could I know that I am the top youth in the country? He approached Martin and whispered, "Can the reporter be present to save face?" He also promised the 23-man squad for the Asian Youth Championship. Football speaks with strength, don't let me look down on you, Martin said coldly upon hearing the words. He was a substitute player in the Dragon League before his time traveling, not because his ability was not good, but because at the age when he should have raised the ball, he was snatched by a relative who was much weaker than him, and had no ball to play, resulting in his level being stagnant. What did you say? If you don't advance, you will retreat. I finally got the opportunity to travel, and my predecessor had good football talent. At the Porto Youth Training Camp, there is no mention of a genius, but he has also worked hard from the U9 age group to U17, and has been selected as a Portuguese U15 national youth and U17 national youth. Proactively applying for naturalization is to contribute my humble efforts and bring some hope to the lovely fans of Dragon Country. South Korean Sun Hyung-hyun won the Golden Boot in the Premier League, performed a solo journey of thousands of miles, and won the Puskas Award. Sakura Country also has important players active in the 5 major leagues, such as Kamita Dottie, Sanjiro, Fuan Kenyo, and Kubo Kennying. Dragon Country fans were envious one by one. Reviving his life, he wants to do something for the Dragon Country fans. You will pay a painful price for your ignorance and arrogance. Hee. After more than 4 years, I am once again reading and opening a book. I hope that new and old book friends can support me. Leonien has never changed his original intention and will create a work that I can't put down, or hold, for everyone. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Angry K. Related households, dismissed by the Football Association, seeking recommendation votes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Angry K. Related account, dismissed by the Football Association, seeking recommendation votes. In the next few minutes of the game, Martin deliberately avoided his undercover teammates in the attack, and our team gained continuous attacking opportunities. After multiple passes, the football came to the attacking right flank. Martin just parked the ball forward, and the opposing left winger directly released the tackle. With a quick reaction, he pushed the football towards the front right with his right foot on the outside of his foot, and his left foot jumped up and cleverly dodged it. At first, he thought it was a relatively normal defense. Unexpectedly, in just half a minute, the opposing player released a tackle again. Similarly, they dodged past. The player who completed the tackle stood up and patted the grass on his body, raising his chin provocatively to look at Martin, revealing his yellowed teeth. Li Hua, who was delaying defense, approached and playfully said, "There's still time to admit our mistakes now. Where doesn't Martin know what the situation is?" He returned a middle finger directly. "Damn it. Jesus can't even save you later. I said it." The undercover player wearing a fluorescent vest seemed to deliberately pass the ball 3 times and 2 times, then hand it over to Martin, who was involved in the forward attack. He had previously observed the position of his teammates in advance, and Wei Shao, who had a tacit cooperation, was closely monitored. The other teammates were very rigid in their positions, making it difficult to pass. Yu Guang saw the opposing left avant-guard rushing forward, hardly needing to guess, he knew what the other party was going to do as expected. Shovel sideways while running. Martin felt a bit angry in his heart, but he didn't vent it. He repeated his old trick and dodged by bouncing the ball. Unexpectedly, as soon as his body landed, he saw Li Hua rushing towards him and making a flying shovel move. The shoe studs are particularly dazzling in the sunlight. "Oh no! Woo!" A chorus of exclamations erupted from the audience. Martin didn't panic, his left foot bent hard and tiptoed, his body leaping up like a compressed spring. But it was still shoveled. The left ankle under pressure twisted outward at a terrifying angle with the incoming force. The intense stabbing sensation instantly transmitted from the ankle nerve to Martin's brain, but disappeared completely between the electric light and flint. The reason is, ding. The system has detected that the host has encountered a malicious foul, and the newbie protection period special immune injury has been activated. Martin, who had been tumbling on the ground for several laps, felt extremely scared when he touched his left ankle, which seemed to have not been shoveled at all. Fortunately, on the day of completing naturalization, the strongest system of the green field that was not fully activated was awakened, and a newbie protection period was obtained. Otherwise, the general idea of this is that it is likely to ruin the entire career. The so-called novice protection period refers to various injuries caused by immunity to opponents, malicious fouls by undercover teammates, unscientific training, and frequent matches leading to physical fatigue before the age of 20. What are professional players most afraid of? Injury. The flying shovel with both feet off the ground is aimed at useless people. Faced with a series of malicious fouls, the clay figurines are 3 points angry. He stood up in anger and grabbed Li Hua's collar with his left hand, which showed a proud expression, in public. With a strong pull, he lifted himself up and slammed his tightly clenched right fist into the face covered in acne. Fuck you. Ah. Accompanied by a scream, Li Hua spat out several blood droplets with teeth in his mouth. Martin still couldn't help but step forward and lift his right foot to press against his chest, saying, "What kind of thing, you still want to waste me?" Ah. Li Hua took a few uncontrollable steps back and stumbled before falling to the ground. The on-site reporter quickly pressed the shooting button, and the sound of clicking kept going. Hua Gu was beaten, let's go together. Li Hua's younger brother rushed over together. Stop it all for me. Head coach Xing Gang said urgently. Who still has ears among the young people who can go up? Wei Xiaohao also rushed over, intending to help Martin. To his surprise, Martin seemed to have a strong buff boost when his anger level exploded, and he managed to keep up with a few opponents on his own. With a heroic posture, he swung his left hook, right hook slash your legs and kick, twist your waist and whip your legs with a flexible body and quick reflexes. He managed to knock down several undercover teammates who wanted to replace Li Hua at a minimal cost. Stop it. Martin, why don't you stop me? Guo Xiaowei, the team leader who was hiding to watch the play, saw that the situation was completely opposite to what was expected. He quickly rushed into the field and shouted at Martin, "Stop it. Stop it. Didn't you hear me call you stop?" "I heard you, so what?" Even before the training began, Martin saw Guo Xiaowei sitting in the coaching seat, crossing his legs and playing with his phone. Li Hua kept throwing shovels without saying a word, provoking without saying a word, and several team members came up to beat him without saying a word. So, he just launched a counterattack and wiped out the opposing team. You came out to find a sense of presence, didn't you make it clear to target him? You. Leader Guo, stop pretending. You should be very happy now, right? Guo Xiaowei frowned as he looked at Martin's playful expression. Since serving as the head coach of the FA, which player dares to speak to him like this? Suddenly feeling offended, he decisively stepped forward and raised his right hand to slap it. Martin leaned slightly and dodged silently. Guo Xiaowei didn't even notice that there was a football standing at his feet. In recent years, my body has been severely hollowed out by alcohol and lust, and it's already too late to see it flicker again. His right foot stepped on the football and his body slid forward with a big step. Just as a word horse was about to hear thunder in silence, a team member who was eating melons was quick-witted and reached out to help, otherwise he was likely to give Martin a big bow. Ha. Cough. Players and coaches who just want to laugh but think of an embarrassing leader can make them unable to bear it and walk away. It's a forced smile. TSK 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 TSK. Martin didn't care if there were some or not. He looked at the awkward and unhappy Guo Xiaowei with a smile on his face and said, "Leader Guo, what's your situation? You've only retired for less than 2 years and you can't walk steadily. Damn it. Beat your teammates in public and confront the leader. Shao pointed at Martin and angrily said, I'm very responsible to tell you that from now on, you're in the National Youth League. No. The future of all levels of national teams is gone. It's over. It's over. Isn't this exactly what you hoped for? After venting his emotions, Martin had a clear mind and had already guessed something from Li Hua's proactive fault-finding, black-footed actions, and the leader's intervention. I took the initiative to apply for naturalization in order to contribute my humble efforts to the development of our country's football industry, but I didn't expect He to ruin a professional player's sports career for personal gain. He shook his head in disappointment, having already decided to leave here and return to Europe to pursue his dreams. Perhaps in the future, we may not be able to put on the robe of our motherland, but we can save our country through other means and elevate our national prestige. Reached out and patted Wei Xiaohao's shoulder, then turned around and walked outside the training ground. Let's go, take care. Guo Xiaowei was taken aback at the words. It wasn't until Martin walked out of the court that he regained his composure and angrily said, Don't think I don't know what your naturalization purpose is for. When the time comes. Even if you beg for heaven and earth, you won't get any contracts from the Dragon Super League team. The Dragon First Division won't do either. It is obvious that he believes Martin's voluntary naturalization is for the increasingly popular Dragon Super League contract in the football market. Unfortunately, the narrow pattern determines the upper limit of thinking. Longhua Football Association Headquarters Building, Office. What do you think about what Leader Guo mentioned? Naturalized player Martin's behavior is really bad. He openly beats his teammates under the watchful eyes of the coaching staff and media workers, and publicly confronts and humiliates the team leader Guo. He is free to leave the team without organization or discipline. The director of the technical committee, Li Jiankong, suppressed his anger and tried his best to speak with justice. Fortunately, I communicated with the reporter in a timely manner, otherwise the impact would be incalculable. I suggest Martin apologize to Li Hua and Guo in person, permanently dismiss the overseas team, and report to the public security organs. I don't agree with Director Li's viewpoint. Yang Jiangwo, Deputy Minister of Youth Training, spoke out in opposition. Martin did indeed physically assault the truth, but we cannot ignore the facts and look at the problem. As far as I know, it was Li Hua who was not skilled enough and became angry, and his teammates with good relationships continued to maliciously use flying shovels that led to a counterattack. I think a slight punishment would be enough. What about confronting Leader Guo? Wang Dawei, the head of the Competition Management Department, asked. This. Young Jiangwo was momentarily speechless and didn't know how to refute. Lei Zhou, the director of the Media and Public Relations Department, followed suit and said, Director Yang, I heard that you personally handled Martin's naturalization, right? Is that the case? Zhong Zhonghua asked. Yes, President. Yang Jiangwo, with a furrowed brow, said truthfully. As a former footballer, I have a lot of say in this area. Let me just put it briefly. When it comes to problems, we cannot put the cart before the horse. Let's talk about the cause first. The flying shovel with both feet off the ground is undoubtedly extremely bad, or a series of times. Martin's anger is also normal. What professional players fear the most? It's injuries. I understand very well. Vice President Yi Zhixing, who ranked last, said in a loud voice, but I don't support it, but the impact has been controlled in a timely manner and has not brought any negative social guidance. Li Hua is also not a big deal. Considering that the Asian Youth League is approaching, I suggest each of us write a profound review. As for the confrontation with Guo's team, it was just a momentary impulse, young people. His career is known as the Bailey of the Dragon Kingdom. Everyone is willing to give face by taking the initiative to speak this time. Guo Xiaowei was about to speak when Li Jiankong hurriedly said, Li Hua has lost 4 teeth and broken 2 ribs. He is still lying in the hospital. Is that okay? Even if there is a reason for the incident, it would be too heavy to take action, right? Hiss. Everyone took a deep breath upon hearing this. The move was indeed a bit harsh. Yang Jiangwo said, "Don't be fooled by Martin, the examination given by the hospital can constitute minor injuries. I see that both of them have suffered significant injuries. We need to wait until the injuries are healed before we can talk about it." Vice President Yi Zhixing smiled slightly and took the opportunity to cooperate with Yang Jiangwo. "It seems like we need to turn big things into small ones." After watching the lively scene for a while, Zhong Zhonghua knew it was time for him to appear. He said solemnly, "I think this matter should be handed over to the disciplinary committee to handle according to the rules and regulations. Everyone's time is precious. It's a waste of time to discuss the unexpected events that happened in the National Youth League. What do you think?" Yang Jiangwo was momentarily dumbfounded. Where can't he hear the meaning of the new president? I sighed and could only reluctantly give up. Send personal information at critical moments to facilitate future work. Now that Zhong Zhonghua has lost face, he can't keep Martin in his future work will be difficult. Agree. 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 Everyone raised their hands to vote, and Yang Jiangwo and Yi Zhixing, who abstained, looked at each other with a bitter smile and shook their heads. Obviously, they had already guessed what the consequences would be for Martin's dismissal. The successful conspirators looked at each other, with victorious colors emanating from their eyebrows. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. System fully activated. Compensate for the supreme talent. Inference, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. System fully activated. Compensate for the supreme talent. Seeking recommended tickets, #decision on punishing Martin, a national U19 youth football team training player, for violation of rules and regulations. On July 18, 2014, at the Xianghe National Training Base, the U19 youth team continued their routine 11v11 group stage match. In the 34th minute of the game, naturalized player Martin, who played for Porto U17 youth team, maliciously retaliated, assaulted laid-off club U19 youth team player Li Hua, and publicly humiliated Guoshao's team leader. His attitude was quite bad, which has seriously affected the daily training of the national U19 youth team. According to the coach's report, media worker supervision, and on-site staff hearing, the above statements are true and valid. The Dragon National Football Association Disciplinary Committee has imposed the following punishment on player Martin in accordance with the Dragon National Football Association Disciplinary Guidelines. 1. Order player Martin to publicly apologize to player Li Hua and team leader Guo Xiaowei on social media platforms. 2. Fine 20,000 Dragon coins. 3. Dismissal of overseas renowned teams will not be considered for 5 years, and the subsequent call-up will be determined based on player Martin's personal attitude of admitting mistakes. This penalty decision shall take effect immediately from the date of its announcement. The Dragon National Football Association will resolutely and seriously deal with various violations and disciplinary actions in accordance with the Dragon National Football Association's disciplinary guidelines, purify the atmosphere of the game, and hope that all parties involved can jointly maintain the order of the game and the hard-earned football development environment. Dragon National Football Association Disciplinary Committee Wang Xiaoping July 19, 2014. The announcement board on the homepage of the Dragon National Football Association has been updated with a penalty decision. At the same time, Martin, packing his luggage at the hotel, suddenly heard a beep from the system. Ding! The system has detected that the host has been expelled by Dragon Country Football Association, and the strongest system in the green field has been fully activated. Host Martin has obtained full access to the system. What? He raised his eyebrows slightly. Ding! Congratulations on the host's complete activation of the system. The compensation gift package has been sent to your email. Please check it carefully. The system prompt sounds again. Upon hearing this, Martin was overjoyed and then used his mind to cut out the system. On the day of completing the naturalization process, it is the hidden condition that triggers the strongest system of awakening green, but according to the system guide, it has not been fully activated yet, only a defensive and invincible novice protection period. Functionality and permissions are almost non-existent. At that time, I asked when the system would be fully activated, and the guide said to see the opportunity. Now it seems that the so-called opportunity is to be fired by the FA. But is this system a bit outdated? The hidden condition of the awakening system is to complete the naturalization process, and complete activation means being expelled by the Football Association. Why bother? System Wizard. Verbal warning once, if the host makes another mistake, Martin. Oh, no. You still have a temper. I originally wanted to ask what would happen if I committed it again, but after thinking about it, I still feel that it's better to do less than to do more. System. Asterisk. Immediately, the displayed main page caught Martin's attention, and he remembered that the first time he switched out of the system page was a gray color with no visual experience. The fully activated system page has a distinct color scheme, making the entire image full of observability. Every blade of grass and every tree is lifelike, creating an immersive visual experience. Ding! The host's current personal abilities have been attributed according to the strength division of professional players in this world. For specific details, please open the attribute panel or consult the system wizard. Familiar instructions are given, and the page in front of me instantly changes. At his visual comfort distance, a setup photo of himself wearing a Porto jersey appeared. Next to it is personal information. Host. Martin age. 17 years and 239 days height. 182 cm weight. 68 kilograms position. Right back, playing more than 10 games can unlock new positions. Preferred foot. Right foot. The information below shows the overall attributes and right back attributes of the individual. The default displayed data is, total attribute. Body, ding. The host opens the attribute panel, defaults to starting a professional football career, and triggers the main quest, beginner. Before Martin could even watch the complete personal attributes, he heard a system prompt in his ear mentioning main task and quickly switched to the taskbar. Main task. Beginners, task requirement. Enter the first team, task reward. Normal gorgeous treasure chest, note. The shorter the time, the better the reward, task deadline. Before the end of the 2014.2015 season, the reward box is divided into 4 levels. Ordinary, exquisite, precious, and magnificent. A regular treasure chest contains items such as a small amount of green coins, physical potions, and limited time experience cards that increase attribute abilities. If you are lucky enough, you can also draw top talents and skills that are not inferior to the gorgeous treasure chest. It's just a low probability and almost impossible to achieve. The exquisite treasure chest is still an advanced item mainly consisting of green coins, wearable items with a small increase in attributes, and free allocation of attribute points. Starting from the precious treasure chest, the internal items are transformed into talents, skills, features, and star-exclusive fame skills. Gorgeous treasure chest, all items are top-notch. As for why the reward is floating, the reason is that the task reward is determined based on the completion time of the task. The shorter the time, the better the reward. As the saying goes, soldiers who don't want to be generals are not good soldiers. If you don't want to get the best reward, it's not a good walkthrough. He sat on the sofa, propping his chin with his hands, looking at most of his attributes being below 60, feeling slightly worried. With my current personal abilities, it may be difficult to enter the first team in a short period of time. The sound of the system wizard appeared in my mind at the right moment. The host still has a compensation gift package that has not been claimed, maybe. It has some effect. Nice. Martin's face lit up with joy upon hearing this, and he immediately turned his head to collect the compensation package from his mailbox. Open. Accompanied by the enthusiastic colorful flowing light, a square box with the words, "Compensation," appeared out of nowhere. After continuous shaking, it suddenly opened. Next is the familiar prompt sound. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 1,000 green coins. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 20 freely allocated attribute points. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the ultimate talent. Defense Master. The compensation gift package was opened, and the corresponding text explanation for the item appeared in front of me. Green coin. System-specific currency for shopping malls. Free allocation of attribute points. Attribute points that are independently allocated to enhance attribute capabilities. Defensive Master. Your overall defensive ability has been greatly improved, and you have gained the characteristic of absolute defense in single-to-single defense absolute defense feature. Single-to-single defensive attacking players, with an additional 50% increase in defensive success rate, oh ho. At this moment, Martin's brain felt a surge of cognition that definitely did not belong to him. Quickly and rapidly integrating with one's own consciousness, as if innate. Simply put, it means having a deeper understanding of defense. It can be said that it is the defensive ceiling of the green world. Looking at the eye-catching talent explained by the Defense Master. My heart is filled with joy. Not to mention the significant improvement in all defensive abilities, the built.in features are simply amazing. Plus, single-to-single defensive attacking players gain an additional 50% defense success rate. Those who have played online games know that the bonus is not to occupy their own probability. I have already acquired a natural talent as a defensive master, and my defensive ability is bound to be outstanding. Adding an additional 50% to my defense success rate is like adding wings to a tiger. Even facing Messi is not at all illusory. No need for deliberate imagination, a very exciting scene comes to mind. The globally acclaimed Champions League stadium, Camp Nou Stadium, is filled with cheers and a frenzy atmosphere. Passing Wong, Messi received the ball and got a half-goal chance, and fans around the world believe that he will easily break through himself and then score with a single goal. What is the result? His handsome face raised a confident and warm smile, and he fought and retreated. At the moment when Messi made a breakthrough, he completed a casual frontal defense and saved the whole team with his own strength. Messi, whose football was broken, hugged his head with both hands, showing an incredulous expression. Who am I? Where am I? What am I going to do? Subsequently, the victims became superheroes such as Neymar, Azar, Robin, Sulla, etc. He. The smile gradually became lewd. Hey, please pay attention to your appearance, the host is drooling. Martin. There is a small exclamation mark in the upper right corner that displays the explanation of the supreme talent. When sending instructions, the feedback received is that talents and skills are divided into 3 levels. Ordinary, Excellent, and Supreme. New book upload, request recommendation ticket. The new book period has 2 shifts every day, divided into 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., end of this chapter. Chapter 4. Encouragement as the mainstay, seeking recommendation votes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Encouragement as the mainstay, seeking recommendation tickets. Martin coughed lightly, calmed his mood, and focused on the second item. 20 points for free allocation of attributes. How should we allocate it? By quickly running the issued command, the screen immediately returns to personal attributes. Physical attribute strong. 51, note. Full value of 100, physical fitness. 81 bounce. 55 speed. 73 acceleration. 75 aggression. 58, shooting attribute, shooting technique. 46 long-range shooting. 39 penalty. 57 position selection. 47 shooting power. 58 volley. 43, passing attribute, transmission. 59 arc. 52 free kick. 47 short pass. 61 long biography. 45 view. 60, technical attributes, flexibility. 61 balance. 59 control. 53 calm down. 67 strap. 50 reaction. 78, defensive attribute heading. 61, plus 15, interception. 96, plus 43, man-to-man. 95, plus 45, shovel. 97, plus 42, snatching. 96, plus 41, GK properties rescue. 13 opening large feet. 21 hand control ball. 18, talent. Defensive master feature. Absolute defense skill. None free allocation attribute. 20 green coin. 1000 looking at all 32 attributes, it actually gives a good impression. Setting aside the significant increase in defensive attributes brought about by the defensive master, the 81 stamina, 70 plus dual speed, and 78 reflexes are already outstanding. 95 plus defensive attributes provide a sense of security. He knows that this is an important attribute for him to establish himself in world football. I couldn't help but think of yesterday morning's national youth group competition at the Shanghai training base. At that time, besides the novice protection period, I had nothing but ruled the entire sideline with my primitive abilities. I couldn't help but sigh in my heart. It's like a delivery man knocking on the door. The food is at home. Immediately, he set aside his distractions. Seeing that the value of the header hanging on the defensive attribute did not seem to increase significantly, he curiously asked, "No, the header is counted as a defensive attribute. Why has it improved so little?" The system wizard patiently explained, the defensive master has already provided a very clear explanation. The significant improvement is aimed at all defensive abilities rather than all defensive attributes. Heading can attack and defend, and in defensive attributes, the system adjusts itself based on the host's position. Strictly speaking, it is an offensive attribute. Okay. How exactly is it distributed? Is it evenly distributed between rain and dew? Or is it a headache? Martin looked melancholy again. The system suggests that the host placed the selection range in its preferred position. A word awakens the dreamer. He quickly shifted the attribute panel display from general properties to right back. Strong. 51 physical fitness. 81 speed. 73 acceleration. 75 transmission. 59 short pass. 61 reaction. 78 heading. 61 interception. 96 man-to-man. 95 shovel. 97 snatching. 96 Looking at it this way, the attribute ability is very impressive. Martin's confidence instantly rose. The only 12 important attributes that highlight the ability of a right back are strength and passing, which are less than 60. How about 10 o'clock each? After some thought, he rejected the plan. Full-backs do not have strict requirements for physical strength. Besides, being young now, a strong body can be improved through scientific exercise and diet. There is no need to use the few attribute points on attributes that are not in a hurry to strengthen. Good steel must be used on the blade. Negated the strength and added it all in the pass. My heart is quite moved. The current defensive ability is unparalleled, with strong round trip running ability and decent dual speed. Adding all of them to the cross can increase the score to 79, and the ability to participate in attacking passes with assists will significantly increase. What are the essential qualities for world-class full-backs? Strong body, super strong defensive ability, terrifying back and forth running ability, wind racing electric speed, and precise passing. Choose a perfect right back template, it's none other than the peak period Maicon. Unfortunately, it's too short. Peak period. Martin is still very self-aware, not ambitious, but rather progressive. I'm not very happy to add all the attributes to the pass. The reason is the system wizard casually mentioned that free allocation of attribute points should prioritize selecting attributes that are difficult to enhance through training. Chuanzhong is an attribute item that can be easily enhanced through targeted training in the system training field and the real world. Scan the attributes of the right back all over. A heart twitch. He remembers someone saying that the most enviable talents of a professional football player are being less prone to injury and speed. Being less prone to injury can ensure that players participate in enough high-quality matches to continuously improve themselves. Speed is difficult to achieve ultimate enhancement through training. How fast a professional player can run depends more on their own talent. That person once said that the vast majority of people's 100-meter results can be improved to within 12 seconds through scientific training methods, but if they want to run into 11 seconds without talent, it is difficult to break through even with sweat that is several times higher than that of ordinary people. Throughout the world of football, most of the top players remembered by people have exceptionally fast speeds. It's not that being fast can make you a star, but rather that speed can better showcase a player's strong personal abilities. It is one of the important conditions for players to grow into football stars. Football matches are constantly changing, and even handling the ball 0.1 seconds faster than others is the key to determining the trend of the game. Familiar figures such as Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, Kaká, Neymar, Hazard, Bale, etc. Moreover, even if all attributes are added to the pass, it would only be 79. What if 7 o'clock is added to the speed and 5 o'clock is added to the acceleration? With a dual speed of 80, the visual impact will be greater whether participating in attack or defense. Anyway, the main task deadline for entering the first team is still quite long. First, we will elevate our personal advantage attributes, so that the coaches of the youth team can make more determined comparisons in the same position. Of course, he can also choose to increase his double speed through training. However, the system wizard mentioned that specialized training for attributes exceeding 70 will decrease by 50% compared to attributes with 70, and dual speed is one of the few attributes that grows very slowly through training. So Martin quickly decided that he would go crazy after the two attributes of speed and acceleration, and continue until double 80. There are still 8 attributes that can be assigned, but after hesitating for a moment, they are respectively at 2 speeds plus 2. The remaining 4 points are relatively easy to choose from. He adds reaction plus 2, cross plus 1, and stamina plus 1. After adding points, an option will pop up on the main page. Whether to complete adding points according to the current selection, yes. The command was issued, and the attributes of the right back in front of me were instantly refreshed. Strong. 51 physical fitness. 82, plus 1, speed. 82, plus 9, acceleration. 82, plus 7, transmission. 60, plus 1, short pass. 61 reaction. 80, plus 2, heading. 61 interception. 96 man-to-man 95 shovel. 97 snatching. 96 knives. Watching the deep blue and red to purple right back display attribute values, Martin excitedly raised his arms and shouted. Fortunately, it was in the hotel room, otherwise it was likely to be mistaken for a mental illness. His attributes have been strengthened, and he clearly feels that his calf strength is stronger, indicating a significant increase in explosive power. When the stronger excitement passed, the focus came to the system mall. Let's see what 1,000 green coins can do. After a few rough glances, I decisively exited the system. Excuse me, goodbye. There are not many items that he can buy with his existing green coins, and their effect is not significant. For example, adding limited time equipment with one or two different attributes, physical potions, training efficiency packs, etc. Items that have practical effects but cannot be purchased. The talent/skill lottery starts with 10,000 green coins, but we cannot guarantee a 100% draw yet. The starting price for a talent that can significantly enhance personal abilities is 100,000 green coins. Ordinary talents range from 100,000 to 400,000 green coins, while excellent talents range from 500,000 to 900,000 green coins. The supreme talent is at least 1 million green coins. The supreme talent, Defensive Master, obtained through a burst of character is priced at 1 million green coins on the talent page of the mall. Subsequently, the screen transitions to the achievement page. According to the system guide, the achievement page displays various achievements of professional football career. Upon completing a certain achievement, he will automatically receive the corresponding reward. But just then, the phone on the coffee table rang, and his consciousness returned to the real world that evening, at the security checkpoint of Capital International Airport. "Uncle Yang, thank you very much for taking me to the airport." Martin reached out to hold Yang Jiangwo with a sincere expression on his face. "You are a very capable young player, unfortunately." Yang Jiangwo held it tightly, his eyes still hanging black bags, looking at Martin with regret. "I've tried to oppose it, but there's nothing I can do." He said he is a mid to low-ranking official of the Football Association, an almost overlooked deputy director of the youth training department. "People speak lightly. I really want to bring some changes to Dragon Country football in my heart, and naturalizing Martin is the one who manages it." The original intention was to create a catfish effect environment and stimulate domestic players with Martin's arrival. Unexpectedly, on the first day of joining the team, I was met with jealousy and criticism. If it weren't for the quick reaction, I might be lying in the orthopedics department of a tertiary hospital in the capital right now. After the fine was issued, Yang Jiangwo also figured it out. A Chinese youth player, even if he has a big background, is unlikely to be so brainless. Li Hua, who has a criminal record, is a reckless and useless person. How could he join forces with his good teammates to tackle Martin, who is currently in a highly anticipated stage, like yesterday? So there is only one reason, there is someone behind it. Just think about it, there are only 11 starting players for national teams at all levels. Except for excellent players who have the ability and handle the relationship with the FA well, most of them have some degree of connection. Isn't the reuse of naturalized players equivalent to compressing the living environment of local players? It also means that the cake that originally belonged to the conservative and stubborn faction has become passive. These guys who live a simple life in the dead. Damn it. Actually, it's also good. Running back and forth can cause physical fatigue, and getting injured will affect my career. Martin comforted Yang Jiangwo, who had been worried about the national football team, and pretended to be relaxed. "Anyway, I am now a glorious dragon man. It is regrettable that I cannot wear the national team jersey, but I will work hard to train for the Porto youth team, strive to be promoted to the first team as soon as possible, participate in the League, Champions League, and join a prestigious team. Let the whole world know that there are also players in Dragon Country who can stand on the top of the green field." Martin, full of passion, said this as he patted Yang Jiangwo's shoulder with his left hand. "Uncle Yang, work hard, and I hope one day you can sit in the position where you realize your aspirations. How about we cooperate again then?" As a traveler, he knows that this day will definitely not come, but it is very cruel to make a dream chaser accept reality, so encouragement is the main focus. These types of people are worthy of respect. There will be such a day. Yang Jiangwo was full of longing, with a hopeful expression in his eyes. "I will personally invite you then." "Definitely." Martin patted his shoulder and gave him a thumbs up. "I believe you can do it." End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Online Public Opinion and Opportunities for Wei Shao, Seeking Recommended Votes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Online Public Opinion and Opportunities for Wei Shao. Seeking recommended votes, Martin boarded a flight from the capital to Geneva, Switzerland, with a layover to Porto. The latest announcement of punishment on the official website of the Football Association was forwarded to Dragon's largest social media platform, Weibo, by malicious individuals. Collaborating with insiders to occasionally release videos and photos that were cut off, it immediately caused a huge sensation. #shocked. The unknown side of Martin, the first naturalized player in Dragon Country. Surprisingly publicly assaulting competitors #the new generation of football villains. Who is responsible for naturalization? We must hold accountable #gossip. Martin is also one of the villains in Porto U17, and his predecessor Pepe is the template #we don't need a naturalized player who insults the national reputation. Get out of the Dragon Kingdom #unclear. Netizens were quickly taken to the rhythm by the out-of-context reports as they watched the FA announcement forwarded to Weibo. Several domestic sports giants have also joined the evaluation, believing that the FA's naturalization experiment is undoubtedly a failure. Some football experts, media reporters, and retired Chinese football stars in the industry have updated their Weibo posts, expressing their rejection of naturalization and hoping that some members of the Football Association will not engage in such reckless behavior again. The healthy development of Dragon Country football still requires one's own efforts. Many fans and netizens lack proper judgment, losing themselves in the rhythm of waves and joining in criticism of Martin. In short, there were many expectations before, but now there is much disappointment. Overwhelming insults swept through the football circle of Dragon Country. I have long been pessimistic about the gimmicky first naturalization. Do you expect a foreign player born and raised abroad to have a sense of belonging to Dragon Country? Developing a self-centered bad habit abroad, Dragon people don't get used to you. The FA hasn't done a particularly impressive job this time. If it were me, it would definitely be a permanent dismissal. My old cousin who works at the Shanghai training base said that Martin became angry and embarrassed after being cut off continuously with the ball. He started with a flying shovel and didn't hit the opponent with a fist, which was too terrifying. Leader Gua even tried to calm Martin down at one point, but he almost hit the leader. I think this kind of person should directly deprive the Dragon Country nationality. It is said that Li Hua broke 2 ribs and lost 4 teeth. Where is Martin a player? He's just a rogue bandit. Fortunately, it was discovered early, otherwise the consequences would have been unimaginable. If it were to break out on the Asian Youth Championship stage, what kind of negative news would it be? The national face would no longer exist. Fortunately, in the midst of misfortune, our national youth vice team would have suffered. Of course, not everyone is driven by rhythm. Some fans and netizens are also calm-headed. They are too clear about the ethics of the Football Association. Some senior Chinese football players and laid-off fans are aware of Li Hua's character, and he has always been the one who messes with others. Where have you seen anyone take the initiative to target him? Moreover, a Porto youth training player who has represented Portugal U17 in European youth competitions would be ashamed and angry at a player whose abilities are not at the same level. There must be some undisclosed secret behind such a defamation of a naturalized player. However, such netizens are ultimately a minority, and even if someone speaks up, they are drowned out in the rhythm of the Navy. Online public opinion is booming, and Wei Shao, who is lying in the dormitory with his phone, is struggling very much. He didn't know if he should step forward and say something for Martin, or rather be hesitating. As Martin's only friend in the youth league, team leader Gua Xiaowei has already warned him. Once helping Martin fight for justice means standing against the FA. You don't have to think about it, you probably get fired like Martin. More than a year of effort will also go to waste. When I had a quarrel with learning football school to study abroad, it was not for the development of Longgua's football career, but to join the player management company founded by Gua Xiaowei's younger brother. Fortunately, a few years later, I returned to China to make better money. Export to domestic sales. Thinking of Martin's care in Porto and his rise in danger, my heart became increasingly conflicted. After several hours of fighting between heaven and man, he ultimately decided to explain the truth through a verified account on Weibo. #I, Wei Xiaohao, a member of the Longwei U19 national youth team, guarantee my character and reputation. The FA announcement is a distortion of facts, so I will give it a beating. Naturalized player Martin was angrily tackled by consecutive flying tackles. It's a legitimate counterattack. All of the above are facts. I swear to heaven. If there is a half-empty sentence, the sky will thunder 5 times. #click, send. Wei Xiaohao took a deep breath and a long-lost smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Unexpectedly, just as Weibo was published, there were netizens who followed and mocked it. May I ask if you have character? If you have character, would you argue with your parent team? Come on, how much did Martin give you? Ha ha ha. Just as I was fighting back, are you going to laugh me to death? I'm just saying why there was a sudden thunderstorm. It turned out you were swearing. By the way, how many times were you hit? Both of them are in Porto, so their relationship should be very good, right? Those who are close to red, those who are close to ink, and you are not a good person either. It should be said that Wang Xiaoping also kicked you away. Purify the national youth atmosphere. Wei Xiaohao roughly read a few comments and almost got angry. What made him even more frustrated was that within 2 minutes, a leader called and demanded the immediate deletion of the Weibo, and the account was blocked. This time, Wei Xiaohao was tough enough to admit that he wouldn't delete the Weibo, and even if it was opened, he would not hesitate. So the next morning, he was called to the office by Guo Xiaowei, asking him to pack his things and go back and forth from where he went. After 16 hours of flight, including connecting flights, Martin's flight finally arrived at the Porto Francisco Canero apron. He stretched lazily and habitually took out his phone to check the time. 8:30 a.m. local time. The airport is not far from the Vitalia Park training base, and it takes less than 20 minutes by taxi. I feel mentally good and there is no physical fatigue. With the unsolvable effect of the novice protection period, he plans to go directly to the Porto Youth Training Base. The Portuguese Youth Academy strongly supports young players to jump, and his friend Ruben Neves in the Porto U17 youth team has already been appreciated by first-team coach Lopez. Completing the triple jump is highly likely to make his professional debut in the new 2014-2015 season. On the other hand, I am over 17 years old and have not yet met the minimum requirements for the U19 youth team. According to the rules of the Youth Training Institute, one must seek their own way out when they reach the age of 18. Now with his strength skyrocketing and sufficient ability and confidence, he firmly believes that he can complete the triple jump like Ruben Neves. However, before that, he must gain the trust of U17 youth team coach Simon, and then gain the recognition of youth training director Paul Noga with his stable performance. At that time, when there are injured or missing positions in the first team lineup, Paul Noga will recommend them to the first team as soon as possible. Getting into the taxi, Martin got bored playing with his phone. He opened the Weibo, which is currently quite positive, to see if he can get something. Unexpectedly, the person who planned to eat the melon became the one who was eaten. Fortunately, I was mentally prepared when I was expelled from the team, and there was no situation of impatience or frustration. Surprisingly, I also came across a reprinted latest announcement from the updated FA website. Wei Xiaohao was expelled from the team due to his inexplicable absence from training. I made an international long-distance call and learned that I was speaking up for myself on Weibo. However, I was warned by the Football Association and dismissed on unfounded charges. Martin looked out the window at the rapidly receding scenery, lost in thought. According to the original historical development, Wei Xiaohao was the thigh of the Longwei U19 national youth team in the Myanmar Asian Youth Championship, scoring twice in the first game to help the national youth team defeat the favorite Sakura country 2.1. So there is a high probability that Wei Xiaohao will not be included in the Myanmar Asian Youth Championship squad if he is expelled from the National Youth League this time. Without this chance to shine, it may not be favored by domestic clubs, and it is impossible to reach a verbal agreement. There is no way out for export to domestic sales, perhaps. It is an opportunity for Wei Xiaohao. I vaguely remember the evaluation of Wei Xiaohao by later media. Setting aside personality and temper, personal abilities are top-notch in China. I am the only player in the Chinese national football team who dares to break through. In short, no matter who the opponent is, I will drive the ball to challenge you. The momentum of sacrificing oneself is truly admirable. Hanging up the phone, Martin sent a WeChat message to Wei Xiaohao. Brother, train hard in Boa Vista, let's do something big in Europe together. Face the Football Association. Let them know what they have lost. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Vitalia Park Training Base. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Vitalia Park Training Base. At the beginning of the millennium, Benfica's youth training facilities were outdated and the results were lackluster. Portuguese sports were average, and Porto was recognized as the best football youth training base in Portugal. It was not until the emergence of outstanding players such as Cristiano Ronaldo, Quaresma, and Nani that Portuguese sports rose strongly and became the new leader of Portuguese youth training. Traditional powerhouse Benfica has realized the need to update its youth training base and establish youth training schools in Lisbon and the Madeira Islands, with important development goals centered on cultivating young players. After several years of hardships, it has become on par with Portuguese sports. Combined with appropriate positioning and training from all over the country, they have finally come from behind and become Portugal's new best youth training team. The former youth training leader was relegated to third place, and no one would feel comfortable. Up and down in Porto, everyone wants to revive their former glory. Increase investment in youth training, hire more professional youth training coaches, and encourage talented players to skip levels. Maintaining club operations as an intermediary before achieving results in youth training. Black shops in Europe have become famous worldwide. However, their core is still youth training. Martin arrived at the Vitalia Park training base and greeted Uncle Mendes, who was familiar with him, before heading straight to the U17 youth team locker room. The Vitalia Park training base is a youth training base in Porto and one of the most advanced youth training bases in Portugal and even Europe. It has beautiful scenery, bird songs and fragrant flowers, complete supporting facilities, and the most scientific training mode. The success rate is also consistently among the top 10 in European youth training camps. I'll go, Roaong, why did you come here? Martin, who arrived at the changing room, was surprised to see a familiar skinny young man. He, the coach said I am already invincible in U15, let me come to U17 to harm you. How about that, cool? Felix looked up proudly and said, by the way, I heard you didn't join the Dragon Nation nationality and go back to participate in the Asian Youth Championship training. Why did you come back? My strength doesn't allow me to exist, so I came back. Martin waved his hand in front of the locker, changed into a training shirt on his own, and prepared for the next training. Is Longwa football so strong now? Although you still have 1 quarter to find your own way out, it's not like you don't even have a place in Longwa U19, right? When you went back, it seemed like you were bragging that you were the first star of Longwa Youth. Felix chuckled. Martin gave a middle finger, can you speak so bluntly? It's easy to lose friends. Immediately, he remembered something and looked regretfully at Felix. If I remember correctly, Portuguese prodigy Felix, who is the successor to Cristiano Ronaldo, will soon be eliminated from the youth training camp due to his weak physique. At one point, he lost confidence, but fortunately, with the encouragement of his father, he joined Benfica's youth training and grew rapidly. He kept jumping and eventually transferred to Atletico Madrid for a record high price, becoming the highest paid player in Portugal. It was also at Atletico Madrid that Felix's high starting point talent was gradually worn out. Simeone's tactics emphasize physical confrontation and high-level pressure, which is precisely Felix's weakness. Felix also gave Martin a middle finger and said, "See how I'll make you feel numb later." Hee, it's not certain who's abusing anyone. Martin is full of confidence. Up to 95 plus defensive attributes. Can you play as a child under 15 years old? U17 head coach Simon was not surprised to see Martin at the training ground, but shook his head with some regret. The Youth Training Academy encourages jumping grades, and Martin was once a star of hope for the academy. I came to U17 3 years ago. But the progress in the past 2 years cannot be said to be lacking, it can only be said to be not significant. Ruben Neves, who jumped to the next level at the same time, has been appreciated by the first team coach Lopech and went directly to the first team to participate in the preparation for the 2014-2015 season. People compare to each other, it's really impossible to compare. Not long ago, there was a provocative operation of actively applying for naturalization to the Dragon Kingdom. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but sigh again. In his view, naturalizing in Longwa is a manifestation of self-abandonment. After all, the current Dragon Super League is notorious for having a lot of money and being foolish, willing to spend huge amounts of money on foreign players. Gilardino and Diamanti, who are struggling to survive in Serie A, can both receive an annual salary of €4 million after tax. TSK. What he didn't expect was that Martin seemed to be enlightened after returning from Dragon Country, and his performance was unbelievable. In training. Oh my good. Felix was easily intercepted by Martin again, holding his head in both hands and exclaiming, "You! How did you know I would break through this way?" Martin kicked the football under his feet to Felix and said calmly, "Isn't it normal for me to see through your difficult dribbling technique?" She shrugged her shoulders as she spoke, revealing a playful smile. "I don't believe it. It must be a coincidence, come again." Felix stepped back a few meters on the football, raised his head but frowned, and said solemnly, "I'm coming." "Kid, come on." Martin lowered his body's center of gravity, looking prepared. Felix is small, explosive, and fast, but he doesn't rely on speed to outdo his opponents, but rather matches the rhythm of his body's center of gravity. Even ordinary professional players may fall for it, but Martin doesn't. A 1.1 defensive attacking player increases their defensive success rate by an additional 50% without encroaching on their own defense. That probability is already high. Felix couldn't even think of breaking his mind, and Martin, who was training against him, used an invincible cheat. It was also a casual thrust in the middle of the battle and retreat, breaking the ball out of the sidelines before Felix accelerated his dribbling. If it weren't for Felix's weak mind, Martin would have planned to control the ball directly under his feet. "I don't believe it, I want to continue." Felix's idol is Cristiano Ronaldo, and he has learned the spirit of never giving up from him. "Since you're looking for abuse, then I'll help you." With an additional 50% increase in defensive success rate, Felix's efforts are destined to become futile. The Porto U17 youth team trained around them also stopped curiously, their eyes looking at Martin one by one as if they were looking at monsters. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Is this still the former star of hope to be discouraged? Woo-woo. After completing a clean and sharp defense against Felix, the audience would silently exclaim in surprise. Genius goalkeeper Diogo Costa murmured, "I feel like Martin is back, the once proud son of heaven has awakened." The sound was not loud, but nearby team members could hear it, and it also resonated. Coach Simon noticed Martin's performance and nodded lightly in satisfaction, without rushing to make a final decision. Half an hour later, it will be a regular group competition. The game is divided into 3 sections, each lasting 20 minutes, and the coaching staff assesses the player's condition. It has been less than half a month since the start of the 2014-2015 Portuguese U17 Youth League season. The most direct reflection of assessing the success of a youth training coach is the performance of the team they lead in that age group. Normal training followed, and Martin's performance was exceptionally impressive. Defensive with one player in charge, the team can transition from defense to attack and run to the front court to support the attack in a timely manner, enriching the team's offensive routines. It's like taking care of the entire right road. The entire coaching staff was very surprised. Is this the Martin who is highly likely to be eliminated from the youth academy? Simon looked at Martin with a relaxed expression on his face, his brows furrowed. However, he did not fully recognize it, not because Martin's nationality changed from Portugal to Dragon Country, but because the players already have ups and downs in their form. Perhaps this is a good time. Observe more. It is best to wait until the U17 Youth Championship starts for the traditional top 3 competition. At that time, it is most suitable to test a player's true level. The Triwizard tournament, also known as the Hope Cup. It is led by the Youth Training Department of the Portuguese Football Association, with 3 age groups of youth training teams from Portugal Sports, Benfica, and Porto participating. That is U17, U19, and U23. The start of the game is about half a month before the start of the Youth League. The training venue is the Portugal National Training Base, and the competition venue is located next to the community natural grass court. According to the schedule, the first round of the 2014.2015 Portugal U17 Youth Championship kicked off on August 15, and the U17 Future Cup started on August 2. After the training match, multiple players gathered around Martin, who had performed exceptionally well, full of curiosity. Faced with a teammate's question, Martin, who is over 30 years old, speaks without blushing or jumping, and opens his mouth. I returned to the Dragon Kingdom and, in a dilapidated Taoist temple, devoutly worshipped the 3 cleanses and received a special sacred baptism. When I woke up, I found that my mind became particularly clear, my hands and feet became more agile, and my understanding of defenders was particularly profound. Moreover, my speed seemed to be much faster. I also want to go to Dragon Country to receive baptism. Midfielder Rui Pires has a serious expression on his face. Dear brother Rui, I'm really sorry. Martin spread his hands and apologetically said, that I used up the last spot. Ha! Will it not happen again in the future? Defender Ricardo Perez, who is not exceptionally talented, asked. Well, I'm not sure either. In the words of our Dragon Kingdom, it depends on fate. Just like me, when opportunities come, there will be opportunities for transformation. Martin is talking serious nonsense, but the problem is that this group of players under the age of 17 are all convinced. The head coach Simon, who pretended to organize the tactical board, perked up his ears to eavesdrop, lost in thought. He had long heard that the sleeping Eastern Dragon was very mysterious. Seeing Martin, who had undergone tremendous changes in less than a week after returning to his home country, he began to agree that this country indeed has a mysterious power to change life. My brain couldn't help but think. I'll also go to Dragon Country on vacation. Perhaps. I am the next Jose Mourinho. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Martin's foster parents. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Martin's foster parents. The Porto Youth Training Base does not invest in any team at all levels, and the clothing, food, housing, and transportation are particularly evident. The player restaurant at the youth training base must be equipped with chefs who hold the highest level of nutritionist license. Not to mention that food is the freshest, the main meals for each player are prepared by nutritionists based on their physical condition and needs. However, the taste of nutritious meals is just a little too much. Martin had already become accustomed to the heavy oil and spiciness before his travels, which were all spicy and enjoyable. Previously, when I went to Longwa, I also ate fake nutritious meals with a variety of colors, flavors, and flavors. Now, when I switch to real nutritious meals with a bland taste, it's a bit difficult to swallow. The fruit salad and fresh juice are fine, but steamed chicken breast, pure steak, and blanched broccoli are a bit difficult to drink. Is it that unpleasant to eat? Felix said playfully. Then you can finish it right away, right away. Wait a moment. Felix took out a bottle of seasoning from his shoulder bag and sprinkled it on the food separately. Oh, it's a bottle of pepper. Good guy. Martin snatched the pepper from Felix's hand and sprinkled it on the chicken breast, steak, and broccoli as if it were free. After adding some pepper, the taste finally improved a bit. It took less than 10 minutes to barely deal with a pile of food. Eat and drink enough, followed by a scientific lunch break. The training time in the afternoon is from 2.30 to 4.00. After an hour and a half of training, Martin waved goodbye to his teammates and voluntarily stayed on the training ground. There are two reasons. One is to understand through system wizards that training for a certain attribute in the real world can also increase numerical values. To achieve a doubling effect, you can also purchase efficiency packs through the system mall. Both the young and the old are fair. The price is 100 green coins for twice the efficiency, 1,000 green coins for 4 times the efficiency, and 10,000 green coins for 8 times the efficiency. The effect lasts for a week, but cannot be stacked. A slight drawback is that the training efficiency package for each attribute is only effective for 2 hours per day in both the real-world and system training fields. 4 hours in total. However, in order to improve efficiency through specialized training for attributes, the prerequisite is to purchase the corresponding course in the system mall, otherwise it will not be effective. It has to be said that the system wizard is still very talented in sales. Being able to make people pay without being aware of it. Martin only has 1,000 green coins and bought a double efficiency package. We also need to set aside green coins to purchase courses. After glancing at the Chuanzhong course, Martin exclaimed, "Good guy. 200% efficiency only sells 100 green coins, but courses actually sell 500 green coins. Fortunately, the course is permanent and has been valid since purchase. In addition, continuous practice provides achievement rewards and allows for free allocation of attribute points. Continuously practicing for 1 week and no less than 1 hour per day can earn 1 point of free allocation attribute. Practicing continuously for at least 1 hour per day for a month can earn 5 points of free allocation attributes. For 1 consecutive season of training, calculated from the start of the season's training until the day before the last official match of the season, no less than 1 hour per day is allowed to receive 60 points of free allocation attribute. The competition day is not within the calculation range. After completing the entire season's training, there will be an additional talent/skill lottery opportunity. Unfortunately, the bonus for 1 consecutive week and 1 month of training is once per season, otherwise you can earn more attribute point rewards. Spend 500 green coins to purchase the Chuanzhong course, and spend 100 green coins to purchase a 200% efficiency package. Martin immediately ran to the right side of the field, arranged the football balls one by one, and began sweating profusely through cross-training. This scene happened to be seen by U17 head coach Simon and youth training director Paul Noga, who were talking in the office. The two of them exchanged a glance, each seeing a hint of relief in each other's eyes. Unexpectedly, a few minutes later, a thin and small figure also arrived at the training ground. Martin Yuguang, who was focused on practicing, saw a teammate coming to the training ground. He turned his head and curiously asked, "Roaong, aren't you going home? I did come to U17 after being invincible in U15. Today, I saw that you have become stronger. To be honest, I feel pressured, so I don't want to see you secretly continue to become stronger." Felix raised his head and his flowing long hair naturally parted. "Of course, you can also understand that I'm here to practice with you. I see that you always run to pick up the ball, and the passing points in practice are single and lack responsive changes." Martin cast a deep glance at Felix, seeing through without saying anything, and nodded with a smile. "Okay, practice with me, you said it. Hehe, when I speak, I always speak without hesitation and keep my promises, but..." Speaking of which, Felix changed his tone and said, "But can you wait for at least half an hour of 1.1 attack and defense training with me? The pain of personal training lies in its dryness and complexity, with someone accompanying it for easy and effortless training. At least, there's no need to play a round of crosses before picking up the football one by one. The system wizard also mentioned that there are no specific requirements for improving achievements and only focusing on improving them. No problem. Ding. The host has completed 2 hours of targeted training for transmission. Today, the time for a 200% efficiency improvement in the real world has passed, and the training effect has returned to the default value. Upon hearing the system prompt, Martin looked up at the progress that was only visible to himself. 24%. The meaning is that when the training progress for attributes reaches 24%, and when the progress reaches 100%, the pass in attribute will automatically increase by 1 point. It is worth mentioning that increasing the value to 70 points will reduce the effect by 50%, reaching another 80 points and then decreasing by 50%. It is precisely because of this that the free allocation of attribute points becomes particularly important. So, completing mainline tasks, side tasks, achievements, and obtaining attribute points become the focus of strengthening, so as not to get addicted to training and miss out on the right things. In addition to attribute point rewards, there are also rewards for significantly improving abilities such as talents and skills when completing the above content. Martin didn't feel tired at all after more than 2 hours of practice, but Felix was exhausted and collapsed on the grass, breathing heavily. His heaving chest showed that he was indeed exhausted enough. He smiled and picked up the scattered football balls on the field, neatly placed them in the 4-wheeled football storage truck, and handed them over to the equipment administrator. "Martin, thank you." Sosa smiled and patted Martin's shoulder, saying, "You need to persevere in your training. Your year-end assessment is approaching, and I hope you can graduate smoothly and join the U19 youth team." "I accept your auspicious words." The two chatted awkwardly for a while, and Martin found an excuse to drag Felix back to the locker room. They each threw their sweaty jerseys and equipment into the large basket placed at the door. I took a shower, changed into my own clothes, and waved goodbye to Felix at the entrance of the training base with a large travel bag. "Go back to your home and find your mother." Returning home, it was already close to 8 p.m. Miguel Mario sat on the sofa, legs crossed, watching TV when he heard the sound of the door opening and turned his head to look. Seeing Martin returning, he snorted lightly and looked back at the soap opera on TV. My left hand lightly tapped my wife Clara Anna, who was already asleep on her shoulder, and whispered, "The child is back. Go and heat up dinner." Anna instinctively stood up upon hearing this, got up and ran excitedly to the door, giving Martin a big hug. "Child, you have finally come back. Mom misses you so much. Haven't you been wronged in the Dragon Kingdom?" "No." Martin shook his head and smiled. "Then you sit down first and watch TV with your dad. I'll go heat up dinner." "Okay." The two sat separately on the sofa, neither speaking. In fact, Martin felt very guilty in his heart. 16 years ago, his adoptive father and mother adopted his predecessor in the Dragon Kingdom, treating him as their own and giving him whatever he wanted. I have never concealed my background, and even support returning to Dragon Kingdom to search for my biological parents when I reach adulthood. Formerly influenced by two people, he fell in love with football. In order to better receive football training, the couple even sent him to the talented Porto Youth Academy through a relationship. Fortunately, his predecessor showed good football talent and established himself in various youth teams of Porto through hard work. His foster father Miguel Mario is Portuguese, and his foster mother Clara Anna is Argentine. Martin naturally obtained dual citizenship in Portugal and Argentina. The couple is very affectionate and agreed early on that Martin would have no problem representing any country in international A-level competitions in the future. Unexpectedly, my adopted son abandoned his Portuguese and Argentine citizenship without any warning over a month ago and chose to naturalize in Longua through naturalization. Clara Anna has no objections. She believes that the child will eventually leave when they grow up, and besides, Dragon Country is still Martin's homeland. Miguel Mario almost got angry and fell ill. Of course, he was only angry at the time, and after a few days of calming down, he naturally accepted reality. Because they taught Martin from a young age to be independent, autonomous, confident, and steadfast. Martin's choice also aligns with educational philosophy. It is understandable to retrieve one's original nationality. However, accepting reality, Miguel Mario was angry that this kid didn't even make symbolic inquiries. Is he the kind of stubborn and rigid father who cannot communicate? Martin glanced at his adoptive father, who looked very angry and funny, with a pouting mouth similar to that of Lei Xinzi. He coughed lightly, suppressed his laughter, took out a box from the large travel bag he brought back, and handed it to Miguel Mario. This is my favorite imperial roast duck that I brought specifically for you in the capital. Quan Jude, have you been craving it for several years? Miguel Mario let out a proud and cold snort, and smelling the unique roast duck flavor emanating from the gift box gave him a boost. The already hungry stomach let out a grunt, and in the corner of the light, Martin forced himself to smile, almost failing. Quickly pinching the flesh of his thigh, he calmed down and said with a stern face, "Don't eat, don't eat. That's too bad. Since you don't want to eat, I'll give it to Uncle John. He even called me before to remind me to bring back a portion." Martin pretended to look very disappointed and sighed as he stood up. "Stinky kid, did you intentionally do it?" Martin sat back on the sofa and rested his right hand on Miguel Mario's shoulder. "Don't be angry, no big deal. Every time I come back from the Dragon Kingdom, I bring you the imperial roast duck from Quan Jude. By the way, I even asked my friend, out of pocket, to buy a lot of authentic hot pot seasoning." As he spoke, he went from the compartment of his travel bag to get the Chongqing hot pot seasoning. Suddenly, he remembered that the express package had not been opened yet, so he calmly and forcefully opened it, putting packages on the coffee table. "How's it going, my Mr. Miguel?" Miguel Mario glanced at the appetizing hot pot seasoning packet and swallowed. "Are these two things trying to kill me?" "That's more than that. When I have time, I'll make you spicy crawfish, pickled Chinese cabbage fish, dry cooked bullfrog." Every time Martin mentioned a Dragon Country flavor dish, Miguel Mario's eyes flickered even more. "It is obvious that he is already imagining himself tasting the food," Martin said. "I also want to eat beer duck, gold-medal drunken chicken, sour and spicy chicken offal. Arrange everything." In Martin's words, it means agreeing first, and whether to redeem it in the future depends on the situation. Clara Anna, who was having a hot dinner in the open kitchen, listened to the conversation in the living room and smiled happily. This father and son finally returned to their usual warm scene. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Triwizard Tournament, Side Quests. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Triwizard Tournament, Side Quests. Pious, I'm a bit tired. Let's go back to my room first. Martin finished the meticulously cooked dinner by his foster mother Clara Anna, belched heavily, patted his belly, stood up, and said a few words before turning around and returning to the room. After taking a shower, he immediately became energetic. Unlock the door and enter the system. He wants to become stronger. Specialized attribute training is divided into real-world and system training fields, each with 2 hours per day to improve efficiency by 200%. Now, it's time to start the training of the system training grounds, Cross. The progress of this pre-transmission has reached 24%, and the system training field can achieve an initial efficiency of approximately 50% after 2 hours of 200% efficiency and a slight 100% efficiency. Equivalent to increasing the transmission attribute by a little in 2 days. If I were to be more willing, besides eating and sleeping, would also practice more and improve my progress even faster. However, that's not necessary. Dreams must exist, and life must also exist. Anyway, with the system in place, there is no fear of constant strength. He has confirmed with the system wizard that the progress has reached 100%, and the experience of automatically increasing the pass attribute by 1 point will not result in game upgrades doubling. According to the calculation of a few attributes in 2 days, persistently conducting tedious targeted training can increase the threshold to 70 for that attribute in about 20 days. It is worth mentioning that for each attribute that reaches 70, if you want to increase the attribute value through training, the difficulty coefficient will increase significantly. The initial training progress has decreased from 100% to 50%, and the efficiency package cannot be used yet. Roughly speaking, if you want to go from 70 to 80, it will take approximately 80 days to practice. About 3 months. I really don't know, I was startled. If you give up training day and night, the time can be shortened significantly. That's the same sentence, there's no need. According to the bottleneck-free improvement calculation, the time cost has indeed increased significantly. However, for the vast majority of football players in the world, achieving the 20-point attribute enhancement of personal data attributes may require years of perseverance, and even the entire career effort may be difficult to improve. Martin still has 3 months to turn 18. The least lacking thing is time. It takes about 100 days to increase a 60 attribute to 80, and within 1 year, it can improve nearly 4 attributes to excellent. Of course, this is also an ideal state. After all, his current attribute values are only comparable to those of a right back, with most others below 60. It takes a lot of time to improve to 80. In this context where it takes a lot of time to improve abilities, completing tasks and achieving rewards such as attribute points, talents, and skills becomes the key to shortening the time to become stronger. Training day after day is very boring. The 2-hour 200% efficiency of the system training ground ended, and Martin did not rest. Instead, he continued training due to OCD until his progress reached 50%. Exit the system, it's not yet 10 p.m. local time in Portugal. The reason why the time is still less than 10 o'clock is because the time on the system training ground is 2.1 compared to the real world. That is to say, after spending 2 hours on the system training ground, only 1 hour has actually passed in the real world. It was still early, so he took out his phone from the bedside table and habitually opened his scarf to read the latest news while eating his own melon. Except for a few calm-headed netizens who insist on their own opinions, most of them have been given a rhythm, so his reputation in the Dragon Kingdom football circle has been reduced to the lowest. He smiled and went from hoping for Dragon Country football to almost everyone shouting and fighting, in just 3 days. In addition, domestic Dragon Super League and Dragon League teams in Dragon Country have coincidentally stated on their official social media accounts on Weibo that, in line with the FA, they prioritize personal character when selecting players and refuse young players who return to China to sign large contracts in various ways. Such an obvious statement, he had to write down his ID card number. I had no intention of exporting to domestic sales, so I didn't care at all. Going to Wei Xiaohao's personal authentication Weibo again would be a miserable blow. Open the Weibo that speaks up for oneself, and there are nearly tens of thousands of comments, at least 99% of which are insulting. 10 days passed quickly, and apart from spending half a day entertaining Wei Xiaohao on the 3rd day of his return to Portugal, Martin spent the rest of his time diligently training at the training base. Youth Training Director Paul Noga sees Martin's progress in his eyes, and if it weren't for the upcoming Top 3 race, he would have promoted Martin to the U19 youth team. Placing it in Benfica or Portuguese sports youth training is naturally the first time to promote and increase training efforts. It's just that the current Porto Youth Academy has lost its former glory, from being the best youth training club in Portugal at the beginning of the millennium to the current 3rd place, and face is already a bit hard to see. For the past 8 consecutive years, the champions of all 3 age groups in the Triwizard tournament have been alternately held by Portuguese Sports and Benfica. Martin, who was about to be discouraged, suddenly grew up and showed signs of fulfilling his former talents. Paul Noga wants to use Martin's abilities to help the U17 youth team and see if they can win an U17 championship. Let's quench our thirst first. The gap between the U19 youth team and the U23 youth team is too big, there is no play at all. U17 is still young, and the gap is not very obvious. Of course, the most important thing is that both Benfica U17 and Portuguese Sports U17 have had a few demons. Benfica U17 youth team includes Renato Santos, Gedson Fernandes, Hoda, non-Liverpool forward, Diego Mendes, Florentino Luis, Ruben Dias. Portuguese Sports U17 also has forwards Rafael Leo, midfielders Andre Franco, Daniel Braganza, defenders João Oliveira, and Thierry Correa. Felix, who has just been promoted from U15 to U17, has good talent, but he is thin and afraid of physical contact, making his performance easily targeted and restricted. Martin has been persistent for the past 10 days, conducting cross-training in the real world and system training fields every day. At 200% efficiency, it expired and was renewed for another week. Within 10 days, it increased the pass in attribute by 5 points, which is only one drop away from adding the 6th point attribute. In addition, 1 week of continuous practice also grants 1 point of free allocation attribute. However, he did not add it to the biography, but rather considered it. Improving progress by 80 through training will result in a significant decrease, which is too wasteful to use in the middle and early stages. It would be better to use freely allocated attribute points for attributes that are difficult to improve in the short term or to stay for later use. Looking at the entire attribute, Martin still believes that it should be used as one of the 2 speeds. According to the attribute explanation in the attribute panel, speed is a measure of an individual's highest speed. The higher the value, the faster the speed. Acceleration is the time it takes from 0 to some consumption, and the higher the value, the less time it takes to start to the maximum speed, which means stronger explosive power. In dual speed, Martin chose to add attribute points to acceleration. Even if placed on U19, the speed of 82 is intended to explode and enhance explosive power, allowing for a faster exit speed between lightning and flint. Football matches are constantly changing, and the decision to win or lose often depends on being just a little bit faster than the opponent. Adding attribute points to the acceleration, there will also be first-team assistants from each team and scouts from other teams watching the top 3 matches of the 3 age groups. Once you perform well, it is possible to attract the attention of Lopegui and other scouts. Join the first team earlier and complete the main task. The task requirement for the main task is not to necessarily enter the first team of Porto. According to his speculation, the reward range of the reward box is not only related to entering the first team earlier, but also to the level of the team. In other words, to obtain the best reward, 2 requirements must be met. Firstly, the team that enters the first team must be strong enough, and secondly, the time to enter the first team is the shortest. His defense is sharp, which can only be said to be completing his job. To be favored by the head coach of the first team, one must become outstanding enough in terms of attracting attention. For example, a remarkable ability to participate in attacks. 3-person competition, I'm here. Martin, with enough anticipation, followed the U17 youth team on the bus from Porto to Lisbon. At this moment, the system prompted the sound to come on. Ding. Host, you have a task to claim, please pay attention. Martin, who was sitting on the bus, found a reason to dismiss Felix and pretended to sleep with his eyes closed, but in fact entered the system to check the task. Side quests. Best player, task requirement. Obtain the best player in the competition, task reward. 10 free allocation attribute points. The task reward can be said to be quite stingy, with only 10 freely allocated attribute points. System Wizard. However, on second thought, it is not difficult for him to achieve the best performance in 2 U17 matches with his current abilities. Defensive and invincible, possessing excellent round-trip running ability in dual speed, with 66 passes, it can be said that in the U17 age group, it is a master of high skill. Coach Simon mentioned that there are not many players to consider. The Portuguese U17 youth team only needs special care for top winger Rafael Leo, midfielder Miguel Luis, and Daniel Braganza. There are quite a few players that Benfica U17 youth team needs to pay attention to, including winger Gedson Fernandes, centre-back Renato Sanchez, Ronaldo Vieira, and Diego Mendes. In addition, there is also the talented centre-back captain Ruben Dias. In Martin's memory, only Leo and Ruben Dias were the players who ultimately paid the price for the U17 youth teams from two youth training teams. But 15-year-old Leo and 17-year-old Ruben Dias are still very inexperienced. In summary, it is not difficult for Martin to win the best player. 10 points for free allocation of attributes, no different from pie falling from the sky. The Portugal national football training base is located in a small town near Lisbon. Due to outdated facilities, the Portuguese Football Association plans to build a new national training base in nearby Urlache. According to media reports, it will be the new headquarters of the Portuguese Football Association, with 3 standard natural grass professional football fields, goalkeeper training fields, gyms, and health centers. It is expected to be completed by 2016. Martin has visited this old training base many times, twice in the semi-finals, and the rest as a selected player for Portugal's U15 national youth and U17 national youth. For the training ground, it can be said that one wants to become familiar with it. The facilities are still outdated, but they are all there should be. Just a professional football training ground, there are 4 blocks. Portugal Sports and Benfica training bases are both located in Lisbon, not far from the national training base. As usual, both clubs have 3 age groups of players who travel by bus on the day of the match. This is a communicative competition that does not involve any major interests, and there is no need to adapt to the venue in advance. It is equivalent to saying that the 3 age groups of the Porto Youth Training Camp can exclusively enjoy the Portugal national training base. Felix, along with future Portuguese national goalkeepers Diogo Costa and Dalot, have just joined the U17 from the U15, making it their first time coming to the national training base to prepare for the semi-finals. They are all excited. Martin, who had traveled through time, integrated with his predecessor's memories and became a tour guide in his spare time. Introduced the various facilities of the training ground and interesting events that have happened in the past to the fans. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Captain U17, Lightning Assistance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Captain U17, Lightning Assistance. The Youth Training Department of the Portuguese Football Association fully considers the special nature of the 3 teams competing. Porto is more than 300 kilometers away from Lisbon, and the schedule is prioritized for Porto. After playing 2 games, Porto's 3 age groups of teams can return. The U17 age group will be the first to start the match tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. against the Portuguese Sports U17 youth team. At 3 p.m., U19 will play, and U23 will play at 6 p.m. in the evening. 3 age groups of Porto youth teams arrived at the national football training base without neglecting their training. After 1 hour of free play, they came to the training ground for their final pre-match practice. Considering that there will be a high-level competition the next day, the training content arranged by the coach is of no intensity. Martin is exactly the same as before, practicing persistently. Congratulations to the host for completing the 100% progress of the passing special training. Passing automatically increases by 1, and the current value is 67. With a system prompt sound, only Martin's visible training progress increased from 99% to 100%. When Martin finished practicing, head coach Simon walked over. "Martin, tomorrow's game, you're the captain." Simon patted Martin's shoulder and encouraged, "The next 2 games will be your swan song at U17. Don't leave any regrets, you also have great leadership skills. I believe you will be a qualified captain. I will definitely not disappoint your trust," Martin said solemnly. The coaches of Porto's U19 and U23 youth teams have recently heard Martin's gossip, saying that it was a former genius who paid homage to the 3 cleanups at the Dragon Country Taoist temple and received a sacred baptism, causing a revolutionary change in his whole personality. Not only fulfilling one's talent, but also becoming exceptionally diligent. Looking at the figure sweating profusely, U19 youth team coach Joe A. Braun smiled, but felt a bit disappointed in his heart. According to the club's youth training rules, teams with higher levels have higher recruitment authority. That is to say, if the U23 youth team head coach is interested in Martin, he can only regretfully miss out on the opportunity for training. Another U23 coach who shares the same idea is Ricardo Perez. If B-team coach Castro is interested, Ricardo Perez smiled at the thought, and it was only then that Martin was recommended to the U19 youth team by youth training director Paul Noga. How could he possibly be valued by the higher B-team Castro? Or, to put it another way, I may not necessarily be able to take a liking to Martin myself. It's even more impossible to be promoted to Team B. First team. Not every player is as lucky as Ruben Neves. The next morning at 10 o'clock, the Porto U17 youth team and the Portuguese Sports U17 youth team followed their respective physical coaches and came to the competition venue to warm up. Martin couldn't help but look towards Leo, who will achieve great success in the future. Compared to the robust physique of later generations, the current Leo still looks very thin, giving people a sense of malnutrition. If you underestimate Leo, you will inevitably suffer a big loss. Fast speed is his personal talent, and good physical coordination and excellent flexibility are innate strengths of black people. Paired with excellent footwork skills, 15-year-old Leo already possesses excellent solo riding skills. There is also outstanding shooting skills in front of the goal, with a calm ability to seize opportunities. Outstanding talent has already shown its sharpness in the Portuguese youth training circle. Porto U17 head coach Simon specifically warned before the game that defending against Leo is the top priority, followed by limiting the performances of Miguel Luis and Daniel Braganza. After all, Leo's personal dribbling and scoring ability is also considered explosive in the U17 age group. The future Milan Thai brother is coming to abuse you. The upcoming game will inevitably be against Leo, with 1 attack and 1 defense, always distinguishing between high and low, and I have a stronger expectation in my heart. 30 minutes passed quickly, and the 2 U17 players who had finished their warm-up walked to their respective coaching seats on the sidelines. The title of the competition claims to be a top 3 competition, but in fact, it is no different from a regular warm-up competition. Both U17 youth teams are conducting pre-match tactical deployments on the sidelines. Portuguese U17 head coach Maramodi explained the tactics, and Leo, who had just been promoted from U15 to U17 and had a starting opportunity, habitually looked up at Porto U17 youth team number 2 in the match. Ding, black hair, yellow skin, Asian player. Or captain. Leo's solemn expression disappeared, replaced by ridicule and contempt. Are there good players in Asia? After thinking for a moment, a strong anger surged in his heart. That disgusting country that relied on referees to make it to the semi-finals of the World Cup. Is there another despicable country that made historical mistakes but refused to acknowledge them? Or the country that claims to be a football desert? Raise the corners of your mouth, revealing a playful smile. No matter which country's player you are from, you must finish it later. Leo made up his mind. The Triwizard tournament is, in a sense, the pinnacle of Portuguese youth training, so many journalists and scouts have flooded into the community professional football fields that host the event. As a feast for Portuguese youth training, it is essential to have a group of friends and family of participating players, loyal fans, neutral fans who join in the fun, and agents who rely on excellent players to make a living. However, the impact of the competition is limited, and the number of spectators entering professional football fields in the community is limited. There are still more than half of the seats with a capacity of 2,000 spectators available. Leo's body's center of gravity was slightly shifted to the right, and then he accelerated by spiking in the opposite direction, clearly wanting to use the rhythm changes and impressive speed to complete the breakthrough. Martin, who lowered his center of gravity and fought back, saw through everything. Leo's wobbling and spiking were like slowing down multiple times in slow motion. His left foot supported his body, and his right foot ghostly extended to intercept the path of the football. Oh meu Deus! Leo's pupils contracted slightly after completing the movements, his face full of disbelief. There is only one idea in his mind: how does he see it? It's too late to change tactics, and my body is affected by inertia. I can only watch Martin intercept the ball and quickly hand it to center-back Rui Pires. Martin, who completed the pass, accelerated along the right sideline and raised his right hand to signal his teammates to pass. Rui Pires stopped and dribbled past a Portuguese U17 player André Franco's header, then delivered a slightly advanced diagonal pass to the right front. The youth teams at all levels of Portuguese sports mainly focus on cultivating wingers, with individualized teaching as a supplement, and the same applies to U17. The attack is on the left flank, and the overall formation is relatively advanced. Martin has a strong awareness of participating in the attack by intercepting the ball and counterattacking. On the other hand, when facing left-back Repchuk, his reaction is only half-shot, and even turning around is too late. Portuguese Sports U17 left midfielder André Franco was also unable to catch up in time, and left centre-back Abdul Conti chose to hold on to his position after being delayed. Mati Quetta, who was at the forefront of the front line, was very alert and quickly inserted diagonally from the middle towards the gap between the two centre-backs, so much so that Conte dared not make too much of a left flank. Martin's dribbling ability is very poor, making it a bit difficult for him to use his skills to excel. Before the game, head coach Simon talked about the speed of this 16-year-old left-footed centre-back being too fast, but there is still a certain gap between being fast. Reaching a dual speed of 80+ gave him enough confidence. Martin skimmed over the center line at high speed, following the right sideline and accurately tracking the path of the football. His right foot arched and pushed the rolling football forward more than 10 meters. The strong and powerful legs alternate rapidly, increasing the speed to the extreme. Conte saw Martin waiting a long distance, his mouth twitching slightly. "Do you think you're Gareth Bell?" At the moment when a slightly sarcastic idea just popped out of my mind, I was stunned. The two of them had originally maintained a safe distance, but in the blink of an eye, the other person came to them. Less than 5 meters. The distance between each other is still shrinking at a visible speed to the naked eye, too damn fast. Not only did Conte feel that Martin was fast, but the coaching staff, substitute players, an audience of Portuguese Sports U17 clearly saw the second player of Porto U17 wearing a blue and white striped shirt as fast as the wind, and they were all amazed. Porto U17 knew that Martin was fast, and when they saw the large empty space behind Conte, they were filled with anticipation. Conte realized that Martin was much faster than himself, and his defensive choice changed from turning around to getting closer. To put it bluntly, it was aimed at committing a foul. As one of the only two defensive players on the entire defensive line, he has a responsibility to keep people or football in place. The football has already traveled a long way, so there are only people left. The ultimate speed and frenzy are one of the most beautiful scenery on the football field, and after Martin kicked the ball out, the two became the most attention-grabbing figures on the field. As both defenders, Martin naturally knew why Conte was getting closer. So, as he ran at full speed, he consciously went out and distanced himself from the opponent. The speed of the two was not in the same level, and Conte could have relied on an advantage closer to the bottom line to get closer to Martin. Now, he has to use the second option. Reaching your feet behind you to trip someone up. Time flies. Martin's reaction attribute of up to 80 plays a crucial role at this time. He keenly noticed Conte falling to the side and back with a shovel, and his left foot, which supported his body, vigorously tiptoed. He jumped up and almost wiped the other person's raised toe to avoid it. Although the novice protection period has an invincible protective effect, he doesn't want to miss the golden scoring opportunity in the starting stage. Pretty Porto U17 head coach Simon raised his arms and shouted. Another centre-back, Guillermo Ramos, handed over the heavy responsibility of defending Mati Quetta to the right-back Amado, who took in the ball, and accelerated to fill the defensive gap left by Conte's reckless defense. Martin stumbled slightly on the ground, but the impact was not significant. He adjusted his body's center of gravity in 2 or 3 steps and chased the football that had advanced without slowing down. During this process, he still has enough time to observe the movements of his teammates and the placement of his opponents. The opponent's right center back is defending the left center back, while the right back is defending the right center back. At the far end of the left flank, a familiar small figure is running at full speed, very fast. The raised right hand kept shaking, afraid that it might not be visible. With a few swift steps, Martin stopped the ball 2 meters in front of him, slowed down slightly, and lowered his head to look at the ball. At this moment, he had already simulated the best passing route in his mind. The attribute, pass, reaches 67, which allows him to complete a predetermined pass in a relatively loose situation. About 25 meters away from the baseline, Martin swung his right foot and sent a powerful cross to the ground while attacking the right rib. The speed of football is extremely fast, and goalkeeper Maximiano did not dare to attack. The fast-running football on the ground swept diagonally over the penalty area line from the attacking right side, then rolled at high speed 2 meters in front of Mati Quetta and Guillermo Ramos, who were pressing forward along the middle highway, heading towards the far end. Beautiful pass. Several scouts hidden in the audience couldn't help but praise them. It's already too late for Maximiano to move towards the far end of the goal with the movement of the football, because the speed of the football is always faster than that of humans. Unmarked Felix inserted into Martin's passing terminal. His right ankle was tight, his arch lightly pushed against the ball, and the football that changed its trajectory quickly rolled towards the bottom right corner of the goal. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Leo feels unprecedented pressure. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 10. Leo feels unprecedented pressure. Porto U17 players gathered in the front field, excitedly celebrating their opening goal. The fans in the audience, as well as the cheering group of family and friends, also cheered and applauded for this wonderful coordinated goal. The scouts hidden among the fans took out notebooks from their briefcases and wrote on the page that read, Porto U17. Number 2 is worth further investigation, with strong defensive ability, fast speed, and active participation in attack. He is a typical modern full-back. Miguel Mario, who drove over 300 kilometers to Lisbon, excitedly hugged his wife and said, "Our son is too strong. There's a dragon on the right side. He's going to the first team." The fans around are all loyal fans of Porto or friends and family of the U17 youth team. When they see Martin's outstanding performance on both ends of the attack and defense, they all believe that if Martin's performance can be stable and sustained, it is completely possible that he is the second U17 player to complete the triple jump after Ruben Neves. The head coach of the coaching staff, Simon, suppressed his ecstasy and expressionlessly patted his palm, giving people a feeling of being in control of everything. The youth training circle in Portugal is just that big, and coaches are very familiar with each other. Portuguese U17 head coach Marimodi accidentally saw Simon's expression and his mouth twitched slightly. "Are you putting it on now?" But as the head coach of the team, he has to do something. So, the players on the field became targets for venting. He, secretly, said, "I%UN at *UN. Leo, who was responsible for conceding the ball, furrowed his brows, crossed his waist with both hands, pursed his lips and looked at Martin, who had been looked down upon by him before the game, feeling a bit regretful. "If I had known my opponent was so strong, I should have used all my strength." The game had no special significance, and the goal celebration came to an end soon. Players from both sides returned to their respective halves one after another, preparing to restart the game. The Portuguese Sports U17, which once again gained the advantage in the kick-off, has lost the disdain it had before the kick-off and has been replaced by a solemn attitude towards the game. The attack is well organized, laying the groundwork for scoring goals. The attack of Portugal's sports first team is mainly on the sidelines, and the tactical framework of youth teams at all levels is based on the tactical play of the first team, and the formulated tactics tend to lean towards the sidelines. Leo is indeed very responsible for losing the ball, but isn't it normal for attacking players to lose the ball? It's just unfortunate that he conceded a goal, which ultimately led to conceding it. Furthermore, football is a team sport, and losing a ball is never someone's responsibility. Football games are ultimately a game of offense and defense, where defense restricts the opponent's attack and allows the attack to penetrate the opponent's defense. If the attack doesn't penetrate, then the next wave of attack will continue until the goal is scored. Leo is a genius in Portugal's youth sports training camp. He was promoted from U15 to U17 and received a starting opportunity, which shows that his ability has been recognized by the coaching staff and the entire team. The Portuguese Sports U17 resumed their attack and quickly returned to the left flank through a series of passes. Through a series of passes and runs, Leo, who received the ball, had the opportunity to face Martin alone. The coaching staff, substitute seats, audience fans, and scouts on both sides are all focused. Martin lowered his body's center of gravity and maintained a safe distance from Leo. Although his success rate in 1-on-1 defense is very high, he knows that defense cannot be arrogant and must show respect for being prepared. At least, it's very comfortable to make others lose. Leo, who received the football, felt a certain amount of pressure and furrowed his brow. However, as a key target of Portuguese sports youth training, the most essential thing is self-confidence. Even if Martin had easily intercepted the ball and assisted his teammate in scoring before. With a determination to shed his shame, Leo plans to use skilled footwork, impressive speed, and exceptional flexibility to knock Martin down. This breakthrough combination of techniques has been successful in past competitions and training. Unexpectedly, Martin never hesitated and had enough patience. Stay calm and composed when you step out, one hit is sure to hit. With a poke, the football crossed the sideline. Leo was not discouraged, but his gaze towards Martin became increasingly solemn. The attack and defense changed, and Porto U17's quick organized attack failed to threaten the opponent's goal. Portuguese Sports U17 shifted from defending to attacking, and their comeback attack quickly developed to the left. Facing Martin with a calm expression once again, Leo felt an unprecedented pressure. He carefully controlled the football on the inner side of his right foot, and his brain kept running at high speed. How should we break through the Easterners in front of us? You should know that from the time he started playing football until now, he had no idea what an opponent was, until today when he met Martin. The two of them were facing each other for the first time, and the direct confrontation had only begun, but he could feel the pressure from the other side. Martin is an insurmountable gap. 2 seconds later, Leo, who was determined to break through, verified the truth through practice. He first used continuous changes in the center of gravity of his upper body combined with a few shots of swinging his feet on the bike, and then used the outer back of his left foot to push the football in the opposite direction as Martin's center of gravity shifted inward. As a result, Martin's defense was like the most high-end hunter. The intuitive feeling is that you have been deceived by continuous fake movements to lose your focus, but when you make the connecting movements, you will find that everything is his deliberately exposed flaw. 2. Lure oneself into temptation. Martin's right foot, trailing behind, extended horizontally like lightning and happened to block Leo's dribbling path. What made Leo doubt his life was that Martin was still lying on the ground, and he took the opportunity to dunk the ball in front of him, quickly sweeping his right foot towards Ricardinho in the middle. The transition rate of Porto U17 from attack to defense is quite fast, indicating that a series of tactical elements were formulated before the game. Passing and cutting are well coordinated, with a high threat, but they were unable to break through Maximiano's goal. Simon knows where the problem lies, but the crucial final pass lacks Martin's accuracy. What a pity, if only he had returned to the Dragon Kingdom 2 years earlier. If Martin had shown this kind of performance earlier, U17 would likely have produced 2 monster players with triple jumps. So as the head coach, he also has great credit and the most reflected performance bonus. However, it is not too late now. The first team right back has left Uruguayan international Fusil and Opal, leaving only Brazilian international Danilo and Portuguese peripheral international Ricardo Pereira. Once an injury occurs, it is customary to recruit players from Team B, U23, and U19. I hope this day arrives soon. Simon looked at Martin with anticipation in his eyes. In theory, the overall strength of Portugal's sports U17 is much stronger than that of Porto's U17, but the latter is becoming increasingly outstanding under Martin's excellent performance. The competition for 5 goals is particularly evident. The momentum is something that cannot be seen or touched, but it is quite important for the trend of the game. The Portuguese sports U17 attack gives people a feeling of having a big ending every time they come to the left. Porto fans saw the opponent attacking and coming to their own defense on the right side, and immediately knew that the defense had stabilized. 20 minutes of the game time quickly passed, and both sides had attacks and defenses against each other. When it comes to threat, naturally Porto U17 is more threatening. In the 23rd minute, Felix caught the ball and fired an anti-aircraft gun from an inside cut and long shot. Portuguese sports U17 took a short-off goal from the back and organized the attack from the back. After multiple consecutive passes, the football was given to Leo on the left side. It is really difficult for Leo, who has always shown extreme confidence in all levels of youth teams, to have the idea of challenging the limits when facing Martin. The football arrived at his feet, either interrupted by Martin and countered by Porto U17, or ended by other teammates attacking on the left side. In short, the attacking left flank of Portuguese sports U17 has been completely paralyzed. In order to ensure the offensive threat, it was forced to shift to the right side. However, Porto U17 has a reassuring Martin sitting on the right side of the defense, and midfielders Paul Estella, Di Cartinho, and Rui Pires can put enough energy into the middle and left on the defensive end. Defense is inherently easier than offense, and with the increase in numbers, defense is effortless and fearless. In the blink of an eye, the game arrived at 30 minutes, and the simple scoreboard displayed on the sidelines was still 1-0. Porto U17 comes first, while Portuguese sports U17 comes second. During this period, Martin completed multiple important tasks of frontal defense and supplementary defense, ensuring absolute safety of the defensive line. The transition from defense to attack is very helpful for the team's attack, opening up the width while enriching the attacking routine. The lightning assist at the beginning was directly participated by Martin, to the extent that Porto U17's attack developed to the right, causing a tense defense on the left side of Portuguese sports U17. Including Leo, everyone has to participate in defense to ensure the stability of the defense line. Martin's forward coordination with the overall attack, Portuguese sports U17's defensive focus is unnaturally inclined towards the left. In this way, Porto U17's attack has greater room for change. Compared to the Portuguese sports U17, which relies on one leg to walk, the two-legged Porto U17's attack is more threatening. Felix, who played as the main left winger, began to gain more possession of the ball, and his excellent footwork and explosive power allowed him to complete several inside cutting shots. The tactical routine was played out, but unfortunately it did not translate into a goal. End of this chapter.